Welcome back to the Indigo Room and our series, Who Are the Indigo People, Part 4 by Lori A. Johnson on sunfell.com. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if this is your first time listening to the series, do yourself a favor, click the link that appears in the top right-hand corner of your screen and start back at the beginning of this playlist, the introduction, and then follow along until you catch up to part 4. Also, subscribe to the playlist as there are more episodes that are going to be uploaded and you'll be notified when we do so. Are you an indigo? Do you think you're an indigo? Do you know someone who's an indigo? Okay, this is the channel for you. Let's get started with the reading, part 4. Who Are the Indigo People, Part 4, sunfell.com. Indigo homes are interesting places, often reflecting the owner's diverse tastes in books, music, decor, and everything else. We span the spectrum in organizational skills, but the typical indigo dwelling is a symphony of elegant chaos, often cluttered and packed with books and papers, but not filthy. It's that learning thing. Our homes won't make it into decorators' magazines, but we know where everything is and are comfortable with it. This doesn't mean that we don't get clutter fatigue. There is a certain stage of life where accumulation has to give way to dispersal. And there is a great soothing quality in orderly, uncluttered spaces. Make sure that you have at least one uncluttered, non-chaotic space in your home to soothe your eyes and soul. For me, it's the bed. It gets made when I get out of it, and I do not allow it to hold any clothes, books, or other clutter. Well, I can't say that about my bed. The devil is a liar. The neat expanse of quilted bedspread is in stark contrast to the business of the rest of the room. I'm gradually trying to bring the same serenity to the rest of my home, but it will take time. Older indigos who have managed to evade the pitfalls of loneliness and isolation often revel in their eccentricities. Their sense of comfort and acceptance of who and what they are makes them attractive to others. They are often popular with their peers in spite of their need for solitude. Part of it is their ready wit. Much of it is their quiet wisdom. When they choose to participate in parties and social events, they often become the center of attention, whether they want to or not. This is because they have a natural charisma that attracts people. Beauty does not enter into this. This charisma is spiritual. They will often attract lost souls who need a catalyst to break out of their delusions, or people on the verge of awakening themselves. Self-actualized indigos are rarely dogmatic or egotistic. They simply live their lives, answer questions as best they can, pay back, perhaps for all of the questions they've asked as a child, and gently steer seekers towards their own solutions. Indigos don't actively seek glory or status and prefer to be followers rather than leaders. This isn't because of any lack of ability. They just understand that their real gifts lie elsewhere. They are not afraid to be the dissenter in a group. If they see the truth in something, they'll stick to it, even if others disagree. Hung juries are often the result of one indigo seeing the big picture, while the rest of the jury does not. They are also capable of seeing both sides of an argument and are often called upon to mediate in disagreements. Yes, we can and often do argue with ourselves. We talk to ourselves a lot, too. We intensely dislike conflict. As kids, adult indigos often distance themselves from quarreling adults and ducked out of quarrels with peers. We preferred peace and harmony in our world, but had a hard time figuring out how to obtain it. Our younger generation, lacking that protective layer that insulated us from knowing too much too soon, proactively tries to quell arguments in person, which looks like extreme risk taking to us. But all indigos, young and old, understand the underlying desire to create harmony, tolerance, compromise, mutual understanding, and trust. As our younger generation's big picture capacity grows, as they learn history and culture, they will greatly refine these diplomatic skills so necessary for us to move into the next stage of our evolution. Although it may sometimes seem like indigos are out of sync with the common culture, this isn't true at all. In fact, they may be more in sync with the genuine reality than most people who are under the spell of popular culture realize. This often eccentric, visionary capability of the indigo is a great gift, for they can truly see the forest from the trees. The difficult part for all indigos, young and old, is to simultaneously function in two powerful realities at once, the spiritual and the cultural, without losing the thread of either. This is especially difficult for the younger indigo arrivals because they lack the protective psychic overlay or protective veil that permitted their elders to gradually assimilate themselves into the local culture and grasp its functions. This lack of a protective wrapper results in a seemingly bratty, often uncontrollable child who one who has difficulty processing the rapid fire signals that the culture today sends to them. The indigo child has essentially been tossed into the pool of this life without testing the waters as the elders did. Being born old but still wearing the body of a child is especially galling to the younger indigos, while the veil for them is not lifted gradually as they mature, as it was for us elders. For them, the veil wasn't there at all. This can be very difficult for their parents. They were expecting a blank slate of a child to write their traditions and expectations upon, and instead got a fully realized, cognizant being with a mind and a will of its own from a very young age. And it can be difficult for the youngsters who, unshielded, are bombarded with the rapid fire sensual assaults of the late 20th and early 21st century. They compensate by speeding themselves up and dividing their sponge like attention to detail too finely. The result is a child who pings off the walls and has the apparent attention span of a gnat. They are learning, but not in the manner expected. All indigos are knowledge sponges, constantly wanting to know more and never satisfied with what is offered. A lot of indigo elders with financial problems are a direct result of lingering in expensive colleges too long. The additional fact that indigos generally do not produce indigos, if they reproduce at all, only adds more difficulty to an already tough situation. Older indigos generally avoid bearing offspring because of memories of their own pure, isolated, and often traumatic and lonely childhood. They do not want to put their own children through that particular hell. Youngsters arriving face two extremes of parenting conditions: total surrender, lack of proper discipline, and thus the failure to assimilate the child into the culture, drugging the child, or worse, or total old style dominance, breaking the spirit of the child, again, drugging, abuse, or even early death. It is tricky. It is a tricky path to deal with the cuckoo's egg of an indigo youngster in one's midst, but with the right materials and support, along with the counsel of the indigo elders, which I am a part and am able to pull down, there can be more successes than failures. The key is to understand that this is an old soul in a youngster's body, a soul who is struggling and controlling the primitive impulses of a child. Give them room to learn and make mistakes. Give them boundaries for their safety. Do not blast them with pop culture, noise, and flash. And most of all, answer their questions honestly. The indigo soul, young or old, is unique to this world. We are not invaders, we are advancers. The work that we are here to do is for the benefit of all upon the planet, as well as the planet itself. Ours will be the first generation of humans who will leave the earth better than we found it. The end of part 4. I do want to emphasize this is me, the Indigo Empress, Sydney Chase speaking, that many of the children she's speaking of in her writings here are now in their 40s, and some of them are in their 50s, early 50s. So 30s, 40s, 50s, indigo children. Most of them are somewhere in that age range. They're no longer children. As a matter of fact, they're having children, and some of their children might be crystal children. But indigos, elder indigos like myself, some of them never really fully accepted the fact that they were an indigo, and it, in turn did not understand or learn what their mission was here on earth and in their incarnated lifetime, and chose to leave or exit this plane. So if you are listening to this reading of the Sunfeld documents on sunfeld.com by Laurie Johnson, then hopefully some of this resonates with you. And you'll be able to, you probably have, if you have children, you probably have crystal children, or probably part of the rainbow children. And if you're an indigo elder, you might not have had any children. And if you did, you might have had just a very small amount. Like me, I only had 2. I only did not want a big family. Came from a big family, know what that was about. So I was not looking to have a huge amount of children. And I honestly, at one point I was thinking I wasn't going to even have any kids at all. That was what I was thinking back in the day, before I found myself pregnant with with a son. And then later had the second son. So what she's saying about that is probably true for a lot of indigos that are on the planet still. So see if any of this resonates with you. But if it doesn't, let's keep going further. We're going to keep on moving further. And that was the end of part 4. Thank you for listening.